The whole world is drunken from the cup of Babylon. You find that woman riding on the beast in Revelation chapter 17. She's made the whole world delusional. They don't know up from down, right from left anymore. And so we're not here to harshly judge anybody. But we have the same purpose that Ezekiel had as watchtower people. I don't mean watchtower the way it's used today by some institutions. I mean, we are to sound the trumpet. If we see sin and iniquity that will bring judgment upon the people of this land, we must proclaim the truth and allow people to hear it and let them make their own decisions, make their own judgments. We'll present the facts and we'll leave it there. But for us, we must serve God and we must worship in truth. You know, there was a warning very early that the mystery of iniquity already does work. This was Paul, who was worried about this. The early church did not keep this tree worship. In fact, if you look through the Bible, there's no record of Jesus' birth date. For sure, he wasn't born December 25th. The person who was born December 25th was the one who was worshipped as Baal or Tammuz or Saturn. Depends which nation and which language you use, but he is the god who died and came to life again in the form of his son. And that's where the evergreen tree came in. So he was a dead stump and this evergreen tree sprang up. That's a whole history that people can study in their encyclopedias, Google it, so on. But they'll find that the real birth date is the death and birth of the solar sun as it hits the shortest day of the year and is reborn again every year. And it's not Jesus' birth. The Bible does not record Jesus' birth. Christmas. Well, what does that mean? Christ means spirit. And Mass means death. And so the Mass of Christ is about the death of Christ. Matthew says, 24, verse 23, "Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they should deceive the very elect." So, there are false Christs, those representing themselves as Christ. And Jesus had three names. He had Lord, Jesus, Christ. The names we were baptized under. Lord meaning representing the Father, Jesus representing the Son, and Christ representing anointed or Spirit. And therefore Christ Mass or Christmas translated actually means spirit of death. Spirit of death. And how can that really be about the birth of Christ? It's not about the birth of Christ. It's a spirit unto itself. It's its own spirit that goes out into the world and teaches its own things. And the world is drunken in this spirit. And you see it growing every year and prevailing more and more. And people getting so caught up. I mean, people that don't believe anything would stand up and fight to the death, almost. I see people get angry. There is a school in Ohio, near Cleveland, where The idea was Christmas was too religious, so they wanted to take it out of the school. And it was ruled in a court of law that Christmas was not religious at all. In fact, had no basis in history that was Christian, and therefore was secular, and therefore could stay in the school. But the prayer, Lord's Prayer, had to go because it was religious. It's a spirit unto itself, spirit of merriment, seemingly very nice, but a great deception, because Jesus was not born on Christmas Day. The shepherds were still sleeping out overnight with their flocks that time. It was too cold, and it was actually the sun god that was killed and reborn that day. And so Christmas is simply the worship of a death system, the worship of the false Messiah, Baal, Tammuz, Saturn, Nimrod, any name you want to put to it, Egyptian god, Horus, all these gods, all these sun gods were tied in. I'll leave you with two verses just to conclude. First is 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 4. Of course, the early church did not worship in this form. It was about the 4th century where the idea of St. Nicholas crept in, and the mistletoe and all these other pagan beliefs crept in under the Romish church system, where they basically adopted all the worship systems of the pagan nations and brought them into this Romish form of Christianity, which was a non-spiritually true form of Christianity, just a conversion of paganism. And so the apostles were made into statues that used to worship, false gods. 2 Corinthians 11:4 warns us, "For if he that cometh preaches another Jesus," so there are other Jesus being preached in the world. How about the Jesus of Christmas? Is that another Jesus? Because our Jesus, we celebrate his death, we know the date of that, but we don't know his birth. So how can we hold his birthday? "For he that cometh preaches another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or if we receive another spirit which ye have not received, or another gospel which ye have not accepted, ye might well bear with him." So, in verse 3, as much as the serpent beguiled Eve, there are other gospels out there that are about Jesus, a different Jesus, about a spirit, a different spirit, that are not for us. And we'll close in Mark chapter 7 and verse 7, which reminds us, "Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men." And that's what the world is caught up in today. Doctrines of the commandments of men. There's no life in them. They cannot save us. There's no salvation. They are an abomination before the Lord that will bring desolation on the land. God's very judgment. Remember, God's judgment starts at the house of God. And it is for us to hold and cling closely to his word, that we are not defiled, but that we may be found trustworthy as in our testimony about Jesus and God when he returns. May God bless you. Thank you.